Recently, we did a vlog on 8 books you must read, and we received a huge amount of feedback from you all asking us to do one vlog per book. And this is our first attempt towards that effort. And the first book we're looking at is Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And you could ask, why have we chosen that? And I have to say that the first time when I personally read that book, it was in the year 2000. I was a student at Columbia University in New York, and I didn't really understand the key messages of that book. I did reread it again in around 2006 probably, and at that time I was working in a very demanding job. I was in the capital markets division of Lehman Brothers. I had a 1-year-old child. I had a house to manage. I had a husband as well to manage. I was traveling 40 minutes from where I lived, Hampstead, all the way to Canary Wharf. And then I would finish work around 7 o'clock, come back tired, and then this was my daily routine. And I was juggling lots and lots of balls in the air. And that's when I really understood that if I wanted to be successful, I needed to be much more effective in what I was doing. And if I look around, I see that mothers, fathers, there's working professionals, there's students, all of us are managing very intense lives nowadays. And we all need to learn how it is that we are going to be much more effective to become more successful. So Stephen Covey was an American entrepreneur who also became a lecturer later in life as well. He taught at university, and he published this very successful book in 1989. It sold over 20 million copies, probably more than that. And it's been on, I remember, on every bestseller list for God knows how long. And he notices, after doing research of over 200 years of literature, that there has been a shift in how success is evaluated in society. And he notices that before 1920, success was measured by your character ethic, what he calls the character ethic. And that is the integrity you had, how brave you were, how humble you were. Whereas post-1920, he notices that this now switches to something what he calls the personality ethics, i.e., what is the car you drive? How big is your house? How do you speak? How do you dress? And if we take that to today's modern world and we look at our social media, Facebook or Instagram timelines, we see that when people are showing their success in life, their happiness in life, they're sharing with us the fact that their child got promoted, the fact that they got promoted, that they bought a new car, that they bought a new house. What holiday have they taken? Did they go to the Maldives or did they go local somewhere? So they share these factors as a symbol of their success. And he notices that there's become a huge divergence between our inner selves and our outer selves when we look at what defines success today. Stephen Covey talks about the paradigm shift that is needed to help us achieve success. And he thinks many of these factors which we perceive to be success are actually holding us back, and that we need to go back to our inner guide and align our habits with our principles. And he gives a very interesting example of a man sitting on a train, looking out of the train, and his children are just running up and down the train. They're causing problems, they're creating chaos, they're making lots of noise, and the passengers are just getting irritated and looking at him, thinking, why isn't he doing anything? And then suddenly, one man decides to take the initiative and goes up to him and says, really angrily to him, please control your children, they're disturbing everybody. And the man looks at him and he says, I suppose I should, I would, but my wife just passed away in hospital and I think we're all in shock and I don't know what to do. So when this man hears him, he obviously realizes that this man is going through something other than what he thought he was going through. And Stephen Covey points to the fact that this is where this man who angrily got up to fight for his right for peace has actually had a paradigm shift. He's realized that what he's looking at is not necessarily what is the reality. So Stephen Covey highlights what are these 7 habits which he says that we need to inculcate in our lives that will help us to have a more successful life. So what are the 7 habits that Stephen Covey talks about? And habit number 1 is being proactive. And here he says, do you define your life to be a success or do you want it to be a failure? Are you reacting to opportunities that you have, or are you focusing on all the problems you have? And he defines 2 circles here, the circle of concern and the circle of influence. And he says that reactive people focus all their energies on their circle of concern. And these are things that they have no control over. It's, for example, the weather, petrol prices. It is inflation in your country. So if you focus all your energies on worrying and saying, I can't do this, I will not be able to do this, you're focusing all your energies on an area that you cannot do anything about. Whereas those that are proactive people, they focus on how to increase the circle of influence. And this is, for example, let's say you have diabetes. You don't wait for your doctor to tell you to do exercise or to eat the right kind of foods. You start preempting that and you go and do it in the first place. This outlook influences how you grow as an individual and how successful your life is. Habit number 2 is begin with the end in mind, and that is visualize what you envisage your life to be. Don't let external factors control your life. Have a blueprint for your life. If, for example, you're going to build a house, you will have architectural drawings or a plan or something, how you're going to take a step at each point to build your house. Similarly, he says for your life, you need to have a personal mission statement. What is it that you want in life and how will you work towards? Habit number 3 is put first things first. And that means learn to say no. Know what your priorities are. Do you know what your priorities are for that day, that week, that month, that year, for your life in general? Or will other people's priority become your issue? So, for example, somebody might start calling you, you're attending their calls, your boss might be calling you for meetings, you don't finish your work because you're attending meetings all the time, you might be responding to emails all the time. So you need to learn how to say no. No to calls, no to meetings, no to friends even sometimes. Habit 4 is very interesting. It's called Think Win-Win. And it's something generally in our societies that we are not seeing so much of. We are running by these Machiavellian principles where we're having very materialistic lives and it's all about the selfie culture of me, me, me. We're focusing on that. Whereas Stephen Covey's idea is think in terms of a principle of abundance. What you can do for others. Instead of closing in and thinking about a scarce mentality, let me not help him because by helping him, I'm doing injustice to myself. He says, open up to others, become a team player, help others achieve their objectives so you can also achieve your objective. Habit number 5 is seek first to understand and then be understood. And that's very interesting. And he points out the fact that when we are generally listening to other people, we are not trying to understand. We're just thinking about, okay, what's the question I can ask him? What's going to be my response to whatever he said? So we rarely listen to the words that the people are actually saying to us. And he says a very interesting quote where he points out that most people listen with the intent to reply and not understand. And experts tell us that all communication, 10% of it actually is words. Up to 30% of it is the sound we make. And 60% actually is body language. Habit number 6 is interesting. It kind of picks up on the habit number 4, which is the think win-win, and it's synergize. And it's basically saying that the whole is greater than the sum of all its individual parts. So 2 plus 2 is not 4, but rather 2 plus 2 may be 22. It's an interesting idea because, as I mentioned earlier as well, as a society, we think more narrowly. Here it's saying, yes, move yourself from dependence to independence. And okay, independence is okay. But what is much better is interdependence. And that is, if we work together, we collaborate together as a team, we will achieve much more than we would as an individual. Habit number 7 is sharpen the saw. And here, essentially, you're trying to renew yourself. You are focusing on your physical well-being, on your mental well-being, on your spiritual well-being, on your social and emotional well-being, as he calls it. And all of this is to ensure that you align your habits with the principles in life that will lead you to success. So for example, you should be sleeping well, you should be eating well, you should be doing exercise as well. You should spend time with your friends for your emotional connection. You should meditate and pray to feel better. And all of this is being developed so that you can align all your habits in your daily life with the bigger principles that you want to guide your life towards success. I hope you enjoyed this vlog. Do share your comments and other books that you would like us to look at as well.